Howdy, everybody. Dr. Andy Woods here. I'm the pastor teacher at Sugarland Bible Church. This is Pastor's Point of View number 372. This is being released September the 5th, 2025. We have a very important, dare I say, critical prophecy update for you today. Here's our preview slide. Going to basically spend this session looking at two major issues, the first of which is what we would call mark of the beast technology, how the technological scene keeps moving towards exactly what the Bible indicates will take place at the end of the age. And then secondly, we want to bring you up to speed on the whole subject of global persecution against God's people, which is also a dominant prophetic theme. And so let's go ahead and start with Mark of the Beast technology. Our biblical entry point when addressing this issue is the infamous Mark of the Beast passage found in Revelation 13, verses 16 through 18. Notice what it says. It says, He causes all, the small and the great, the rich and the poor, the freemen and the slaves, to be given a mark, watch this very carefully, on, not in, not under, but on their right hand or their forehead. He provides that no one will be able to buy or sell except the one who has the mark, either the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for the number is that of a man, and his number is 666. Now, the on that I mentioned is the Greek preposition epi, which essentially means upon. It's a translation on, a translation from that Greek preposition. The word here is not uper, where we get the word hypodermic, meaning underneath the skin. It's not underneath the skin, but it is on the skin. Now, it is fascinating to me to watch how technology makes this whole scenario extremely believable and extremely credible. I happen to have a number of older commentaries in my library on the book of Revelation, some of which are written over 100 years ago, and it's interesting to watch them in the prior century try to interpret that passage. I mean, most could not make any sense of it, and they end up kind of symbolizing it away, spiritualizing it away, allegorizing it away, pretending that it's not literal, but we don't have to do that with God's word. And certainly we don't have to do that today, because the whole technological scene has caught up to the specifics that the Bible indicates would engulf the earth at the end of the age. So with all of that being said, I want to draw your attention, if I could, to this first article. This one comes out of the Daily Galaxy. And so this is June 5th, 2025. And it says, Bill Gates declares the end of the smartphone era and unveils its surprising replacement. The subtitle of the article is The Age of Smartphones is Coming to an End. A bold prediction from Bill Gates reveals a revolutionary new tech set to replace your phone, catch this, forever. Now, we know about Bill Gates. We know he's a one-worlder. We know he's a globalist. We know that he wants to micromanage every person on planet Earth. We know he has an extremely shady, past. And we remember all of the unveiling of Bill Gates and the trouble he caused, back in 2020. So it's interesting that this new technological insight, if we could call it that, prediction, might we say, comes from Bill Gates. And so, when Bill Gates speaks, we know it's the Antichrist's agenda. And notice that Bill Gates keeps making these bold predictions technologically about the future. The article says, in a bold prediction that's making waves across the tech world, Microsoft founder Bill Gates has suggested that smartphones could soon become obsolete, replaced by an entirely new kind of technology. Forget everything you know about handheld devices. Gates envisions a future where electronic tattoos become the norm. Electronic tattoos replacing the cell phone. What do you do with a tattoo? Well, you place it not in, but on, exactly like the Bible indicates, on the skin. The article says, instead of holding a phone in our hands, these tattoos could allow us to communicate, access the internet, and even monitor our health, all without a screen in sight. The tattoos are powered by tiny nano capacitors, and they don't require bulky batteries or displays, making them far more suitable or subtle alternative to today's mobile devices. I have felt this, folks, for a long time, that the great selling point that ultimately is going to push us into the mark of the beast system is going to be the argument of convenience. I mean, think how convenient these things will be, not to fumble around with those bulky phones anymore. He goes on and he says these tattoos can communicate with surrounding devices, letting you do things like send messages, browse the web, or even unlock doors, all with a simple swipe or gesture. And the best part, they're invisible, meaning no more holding a phone or carrying around a bulky device around. It's a seamless experience where technology becomes part of you and not something you have to lug around or carry around. The article says the tattoos can replace the need for passwords, credit cards, or even physical keys. Boy, won't that be a selling point? No more passwords to memorize. I can't tell you how many times I say to my wife regarding a certain account, what was the password to that? I can't remember it. Isn't it interesting that, it's almost like we're being groomed, to accept this. And I would just ask a very simple question. I mean, is this kind of thing pushing us further away from the mark of the beast or further towards the mark of the beast? I think the answer is obvious. It's the latter. Now, keep in mind, as we review some of this technology, I'm not saying this is that. I'm not saying this is the mark of the beast, but prophecies are such that they're not fulfilled in a vacuum. Long before a prophecy is fulfilled, the stage is properly set. And you see that with the first coming of Christ. The stage was set for Jesus' entry into the world centuries before he showed up. The Romans had come to power and subjugated the nation of Israel and brought back the crucifixion as a means of capital punishment. I'm just giving this as an example. So the prophecies going all the way back, the stage, I should say, going all the way back to 63 BC, when Pompey entered Israel, entered Jerusalem, and subjugated it under Roman authority, Rome bringing with them the crucifixion and the power to execute criminals through piercing. 63 BC, the stage is set for the piercing prophecies. The Messiah must be pierced. Psalm 22, verse 16. Zechariah 12, verse 10. Isaiah 53, verse 5. In other words, prophecy wasn't just instantaneously fulfilled. The stage was set. And that's what I'm seeing with these Mark of the Beast passages. Just as the stage was set for the first coming of Christ, the stage is currently being set for the second coming of Christ. And these are all trends that we can look for to show us the nearness of the return of our Lord Jesus Christ. With that being said, let me draw you to a second article. This is also dealing with technology. It says ICE. ICE, of course, stands for the Immigration and Customs Enforcement. ICE reportedly plans to obtain eye-scanning AI technology to aid deportations. This is an August 12th article from 100%fedup.com. And notice what this article says. It says Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE in other words, reportedly intends on acquiring AI technology capable of scanning people's eyes from several feet away. The mobile software from B12 Technologies can identify individuals from 10 to 15 feet away using a smartphone app, according to the Massachusetts-based company. It then connects with a second product, including a database, nine news reports. The article goes on, and it sort of concludes this way. He said that while the app could help ICE agents detect people who are here illegally, especially those who have already been encountered by ICE, it also introduces privacy concerns for citizens, especially if photos are being compared to ones found on social media. And here's what one of the experts on this said. AI is evolving so rapidly, and the laws are not keeping up with the evolution, he said. This is the kind of thing where if this had happened in the Biden years, conservatives would be screaming bloody murder. But because we as conservatives have our guy in, we have a tendency to turn a blind eye to things like this. I mean, who's not in favor of deporting illegals? I mean, I'm in favor of that. And if technology can help do it, so be it. The problem is the Trump administration is not going to be there forever. Trump is not going to be there forever. And you wonder, into whose hands is this technology going to fall? We have no idea. The Bible actually warns us about this and says there's coming on the scene one day an Antichrist who's going to take all of this technology and use it to usher in, worldwide enslavement of the masses, worldwide subjugation of the people. And it's kind of interesting how Satan works. When he wants to move a particular direction, he can put a Republican or conservative type figure in the White House. I'm not arguing that that is happening with Trump. I'm just revealing kind of a strategy that I think he has. And that way he can get certain things done and the right won't speak of it. And when he wants to get something else done, he can put a liberal Democrat type person in a position of influence. And while the right will speak up against it, the left won't speak up against it. So he can accomplish different things regardless of who's in office, whether your guy's in office or not. He's always seems to be pushing things in the direction he wants to go, which is one world tyranny. And so this is an example where this kind of thing could, kind of slip through the cracks, and conservatives won't speak up against it because, after all, this aids a cause that all of us agree with, deporting illegals. But my question is, leaving the politics of it aside just for a minute, who's going to be controlling this technology after Trump leaves the White House? I remember the Patriot Act passed through under the administration of George W. Bush, supposedly a conservative Republican. And at that time, it was in the post 9/11 climate, everybody was in favor of the Patriot Act because we were told that the Patriot Act would be done to criminalize Islamic terror in the United States of America. And who doesn't want to hear that? Particularly in the post 9/11 climate. Well, what happened to the Patriot Act over time? Well, what happened to the Patriot Act over time is the Patriot Act was turned against the patriots. Just ask the what was it? The J6, excuse me, protesters about that. And all of this monkey business about the FISA court and doctored dossiers, those were all done against the Trump campaign, spying on the Trump campaign through these kind of FISA Patriot Act oriented courts where people can be tried criminally, and the basic constitutional rights that they're typically given as a criminal defendant in the American system don't apply anymore because we're dealing with Islamic terror. Well, that's fine until you turn the Patriot Act on the patriots, until you use the Patriot Act and its accompanying judicial system, to spy on Republican presidential campaigns, and we don't like it anymore. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that's how I'd like you to see this new technology that ICE wants to get its hands on. Could be great with the Trump administration, but just like the Patriot Act, could it be abused by subsequent leaders? We know ultimately it will be abused by a subsequent leader, ruler, the Antichrist. Now, again, I'm not saying that this technology is that. This is not the mark of the beast like the electronic tattoos that I talked about a little earlier. This is stage setting for the mark of the beast. But just ask yourself a simple question. Is this technology pushing us away from what Revelation 13 verses 16 through 18 anticipates for the end of the age, or is it pushing us more aggressively in the direction of the fulfillment of that prophecies? I mean, I think the answer is obvious. It's the latter. Speaking of technology, let me take you to one other fast article. And even before I get there, let's read the verse just before the mark of the beast verses in Revelation 13, verses 16 through 18. What does verse 15 say? It says this, and it was given to him to give breath to the image of the beast, so that the image of the beast would even speak, and causes many as do not worship the image of the beast to be killed. Now, this is talking about a statue that is going to be set up by the Antichrist at the midpoint of the tribulation period. This will be a replica of what Antiochus Epiphanes in the intertestamental period, whose prophecies in the book of Daniel, Daniel 8, Daniel 11, are used as a foreshadowing of the future Antichrist. Antiochus Epiphanes is one of the great foreshadowings of the future Antichrist that we have anywhere in the pages of God's Word. He's deliberately set up as a type or a foreshadow of the coming Antichrist. And what Antiochus did is he desecrated the Jewish temple, did a lot of terrible things to the Jews during that time period. This would take us to about 167 BC, give or take. And one of the things he did is he set up a pagan image in the temple. It was an image of Zeus. And so since he is a foreshadowing of the Antichrist is going to do the exact same thing. It's just the New Testament prophecies are more specific, telling us the Antichrist is going to do that at the midpoint of the tribulation period. And I believe that this statue is what is referenced in the verse that I just read. I mean, it's a talking statue. Let me read it to you again. It says, it was given to him to give breath to the image of the beast, so that the image of the beast could even speak, and causes many as do not worship the image of the beast to be killed. So this is a statue, John says, but it looks like it's alive. It looks like it can talk. Look at this. It even looks like it can commit crimes. because it talks about how this image, if people don't worship the beast, this image is empowered to kill people that do not worship the image of the beast. And I would say that the trajectory that we're headed on related to AI, artificial intelligence, the abuse of it is pushing us in the direction of this type of technology. And that's why I wanted to draw your attention this article that we had up a little earlier. There it is again. It says AI, artificial intelligence, is learning to lie, scheme, wow, and even threaten its creators. This is from Insider Paper. This is a fairly recent article, July 15th, 2025. And what does this say? And as I'm reading just a little bit from this article, think Revelation 13, verse 15. Think stage setting. Think how technology is setting the stage for the scenario that the Bible envisions. It says the world's most advanced AI models are exhibiting troubling new behaviors, lying, scheming, and even threatening their creators to achieve their goals. Now, I thought these were machines that you could just unplug at will. I mean, I thought these machines were there to serve us. Well, what we're learning, the more we progress down this AI road, is that these machines are very much, not full capacity as a human being, but like people in the sense that they can assert their own will against their masters or against their creators. It says, and I've quoted people on this show before, people that were involved in the advent of AI, and they said, you know what, let's shut the whole thing down, before it gets out of control. Well, we didn't shut it down, and things are starting to get out of control. And the interesting thing about technology, I was reading an article not long ago, it says every 2 months technology doubles. So you can't reverse technology. You can't go back to horse and buggy days. And so all the knowledge that we have is compounded by 2 times 2 over the course of the next 2 months. And then when it doubles, that number, as big as it is, again doubles. And it keeps going on and on like this, growing at an exponential rate. That's what this article is warning us about. It says Anthropic's latest creation, Claude 4, lashed back by blackmailing an engineer and threatened to reveal an extramarital affair. Apparently, this machine got knowledge that its boss, a human being, was having an extramarital affair based on emails. And when the boss threatened to unplug the machine said, I'm going to let your wife know about your extramarital affair by way of retaliation. I mean, isn't that the kind of thing that Revelation 13, verse 15 is talking about? A speaking, talking image that even has the power to commit crimes. It says, meanwhile, ChatGPT creator OpenAI's O1 tried to download itself. How does a machine download itself? Because it has a will of its own at a particular evolutionary stage in its development. Tried to download itself onto external servers and denied it when caught red-handed. So it was caught downloading itself to places it wasn't supposed to go and then denied the crime. That's astounding to me. This deceptive behavior appears to be linked to the emergence of reasoning models, AI systems that work through problems step by step rather than generating instant responses. These models sometimes simulate alignment, appearing to follow instructions while secretly pursuing different objectives. Wow. The article says users report that models are lying to them and making up evidence, according to Apollo Research's co-founder. And here's how the article concludes. It says Goldstein suggested, this is an expert in the field, suggested more radical approaches, including using the courts to hold AI companies accountable through lawsuits when their systems cause harm. He proposed holding AI agents legally responsible for accidents or crimes. I didn't know a machine could commit a crime. Well, the Bible says, if I'm understanding this image correctly, it's going to commit a crime. It's going to commit the crime of murder for non-beast worshipers. A concept, the article says, that would fundamentally change how we think about AI accountability. So the technology scene is moving very, very fast, and it's moving into the type of climate that the Bible predicts for the end of the age. So we bring this to your attention in a prophecy update. Let's go to our final subject that we want to take a look at in this session, and this has to do with persecution. Global persecution against God's people. Our jumping off point when we talk about this is usually in Revelation 17, although there are many places we could go, but this sort of summarizes the global persecution that God's people will experience at the end of the age. John says, I saw the woman. Now the woman is the Antichrist city, verse 18 of the same chapter, and system that emerges from the city. I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the witnesses of Jesus. When I saw her, I wondered greatly. So John there is saying that this city and system of the Antichrist will be in a state of drunkenness, not with inebriating beverages, the way normal drunkenness occurs, but actually with the blood of God's people. I mean, it says there, the blood of the witnesses of Jesus. And this type of persecution is global because verse 15 says, he said to me, the waters which you saw where the harlot sits are peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues, which is when you track those four nouns through the book of Revelation, you'll see that it connotes that it communicates globalism or universality. So when you look at a prophecy like this, it's talking about global persecution against God's people at the end of the age. The question is that scenario on the horizon? I would say yes. Notice this article here. This comes from PJ Media. This is August 10th, 2025. The title of this is Four of the World's Five. That's 80%. Four of the world's five most populous nations persecute Christians. In other words, the biggest nations on this planet, population-wise, 4 out of 5 have them, as I speak, Christians under severe persecution. Here's what the article says. It says 4 out of the world's 5 countries with the biggest populations persecute Christians, a new report emphasizes. The countries represent 3.41 billion people, or the equivalent of over 40% of the global population. The governments of these nations, or radical groups within them, impose harsh restrictions on Christians, arrest them, or even kill them. That's the story you will not hear on mainstream media, which is too busy showing you fake photos of starving Gazans and running sob stories about illegal aliens to care about. They're too busy doing that, in other words, to care about the persecution of Jews and Christians worldwide. Now, those are all issues that we covered on prior shows, but, let's turn worldwide antagonism against Israel by doctoring photos. That's what you see on the news these days. The real persecution, where 4 of the 5 most populous countries of the earth are persecuting Jews and Christians, that story you'll never see. In fact, you'd have to be sort of in touch with a ministry like Voice of the Martyrs Ministries to even be aware of this very, very intense global persecution. The article says International Christian Concern, ICC, in other words, explained China with its 1.41 billion people, India, 1.46 billion people, Indonesia, 285 million people, and Pakistan, 255 million people, routinely strip Christians of fundamental human rights, like worshiping freely and sharing their faith with others. Islam and communism, sometimes called the red-green axis. Boy, they sure have a lot in common, don't they? Islam and Marxism. Which explains why the feminists connected with liberalism, connected with Marxism, and the LGBTQ movement connected with Marxism will never issue an unkind remark about Islam, because the enemy of my enemy is my friend. This is called the red-green axis, how Marxism and Islam actually are in bed together, cooperate with each other, and they both have an intense hatred for the Saturday people, which would be the Jews, and the Sunday people, which would be the Christians. Islam and Marxism are the two ideologies most responsible for Christian persecution worldwide, though some Hindus and Buddhists also are very hostile to Christianity. Chinese Christians can face prison fines, and demotion on the country's social credit score system, which is necessary to buy anything or go anywhere. 9 Christians in April were condemned to prison and fined for distributing Bibles. It is difficult to find any accurate information on whether or not the genocidal Chinese Communist Party, known as the CCP, has murdered Christians for their faith, since religious and political dissidents who are killed often simply disappear without record. That's called disappearing persons. So the article is complaining we don't even have the ability to collect data in some cases because people just disappear, and the rest of the community has no idea where they went or maybe even why they disappeared. The ICC, the CCP, has implemented something called, look at this, syncretization, if I'm pronouncing that right, in the nation for some time. It's a policy that the United States Commission on International Religious Freedom said emphasizes the CCP's political agenda and Marxist vision for religion. In May, Chinese authorities released a plan to incorporate lyrics that applaud communism into church worship music, close quote. One of the things the Marxists are very interested in is the church, because the church shapes values. So they've infiltrated the church in China. I believe to some extent they've infiltrated the church in the United States of America. That's why so many churches are moving in more of a social justice direction, which is very, very sympathetic to, Marxist belief and Marxist causes. And here, the Chinese Communist Party has not only interjected itself into the life of the church, but they've interjected themselves into church music. Isn't it interesting that one of the great battles within evangelical Christianity for some time is the worship wars? Our Christian music, worship, is it biblical or not? That's the discussion. Well, maybe there's a reason we're having that discussion. Maybe it's because we've been infiltrated by Marxism far more than we initially believed or even were willing to acknowledge. I mean, this is what is happening in China. It says in Muslim majority Indonesia, Multiple churches have been closed in recent years, and Christians are legally required to obtain not only 60 Christian signatures, but also 90 signatures from individuals of another faith to build a new church, which of course effectively makes it almost impossible. So they're clamping down there in Muslim countries on Indonesia, Muslim majority dominated Indonesia, on how many churches you can have and if you can even have a Christian church at all. In predominantly Muslim Pakistan, Christ followers are often discriminated against and not given equal opportunities in employment. Jobs like sewer maintenance and street sweepers are typically reserved for Christians. So if you want a job as a Christian in a country like that, you're at the lowest level of society, socioeconomic-wise. Here's how the article concludes. It says the genocides in Nigeria and Syria, the state crackdowns in China and Iran, and the violence in Democratic Republic of Congo and India receive no coverage, and so do not garner the attention that they deserve. So, here you are reading John's prophecies about, global persecution in the last days, and you sort of ask yourself, could this ever happen? My point in bringing this to your attention in a prophecy update is to say not only could it happen, but to some extent it is happening. We just don't hear about it. As 4 of the 5 most populous nations in the world are exhibiting some form of anti-Christian bigotry, anti-Christian persecution. So we're living in a time period where John's prophecies are very, very realizable and very, very credible. On the subject of persecution, let me draw your attention to one final article today. This one comes from the Rare Foundation. The author of this particular article, I believe, is Renee Null. And here is what it says. It says Sharia arrest. Now, where? In Tehran, in Iran, in Saudi Arabia, where? In Dearborn, Michigan. You mean there's been a Sharia arrest in Dearborn, Michigan? Yes, there has. Sharia arrest in Dearborn, Michigan. Non-Muslim is jailed for a Facebook post while Islamic death chants go unpunished. This article is dated August 23rd, 2025. And it's a very lengthy article. It's very well written. It's very well substantiated and footnoted. I would encourage you to get this, to download it, and read the whole thing. But it deals with, in Dearborn, Michigan, a Islamic mayor and also someone that we might call an Islamic chief of police. Both are in positions of authority in Dearborn, Michigan. And it deals with a young man named Anthony Young, age 27, and he got into a dispute with someone, I believe on Facebook, social media, related to the commemoration of the martyrdom of Muhammad's grandson in a festivity, a parade that takes place regularly in Dearborn, Michigan, called the Arba'in procession. And Mr. Young, of course, said something a bit on the foolish side that got him into trouble. The article says this: Young allegedly made a reckless comment on Facebook. And here's what he said: someone should show up and let a couple of clips out, close quote. I mean, not the smartest thing to say. But notice the reaction. Within hours, not days, not weeks, not months, hours, multiple police officers, remember who the chief of police is, a Muslim, remember who the mayor is in Dearborn, Michigan, a Muslim, descended on his home to arrest him. The phrase implies violence, which Mr. Young said someone should show up and let a couple of clips out. That clearly conveys violence, but it is indirect wording. It says someone should versus I will. I mean, he didn't say I'm going to go out and do this. He said someone should. His statement was vague, speculative, and far from a credible threat, the article says. Still, Dearborn police treated him like a terrorist, storming his house as if his words alone, represented bullets. And the article goes on and it talks about what this man, was subjected to in terms of a GPS strapped to him, GPS tracker, tethered to him. He was forced to wear. There was a bond posted up to $5,000. And while all this is going on, the Muslim authorities turned a blind eye to Muslim parades, Muslim gatherings taking place in Dearborn, Michigan, which say the same kind of thing in terms of violence, but far worse. For example, it says last year at a Quds Day militant rally in Dearborn, the mayor himself admitted that violent chants of "Death America" and "Death to Israel" were shouted from the stage. Yet no one was arrested. No one was investigated. Not a single police officer was dispatched. At another one of these gatherings, the Jews were told to go back to Poland. And the point, of course, of this article is, look, why the unequal treatment of the law? If someone makes a vague statement about violence, and you want to throw the book at him, you want to throw the power of law at him, then you know what? We need to shut down a lot of these Islamic rallies as well, which didn't happen in Dearborn, Michigan, because the powers that be, whether it's the mayor or the chief of police, were Islamic. The article says the glaring double standard, jailing one man's speech while a mosque celebrates a terrorist on U.S. soil, exposes the dangerous misuse of tax-exempt status to shield and glorify actual violence. So it's a fairly lengthy article, but you get the gist of it. But the article brings up that this is what the Quran tells Muslims to do when they get the majority, when they get the levers of power. It says the Quran warns believers to defend their prophet from insult. It gives the citations in the Quran where you can find these commands. Commands them to fight those who do not believe until they submit. Muhammad himself declared, I have been commanded to fight the people until they testify that none has the right to be worshipped but Allah. And the article says this is why Dearborn, a non-Muslim reckless Facebook remark is met with zero tolerance, while open chants of death to America are excused as religiously righteous resistance. This is what is happening in Dearborn, Michigan, and it's not surprising because this is what happens in any part of the world where the Muslims get the upper hand in terms of political power. They pursue a very disparate, should I say, approach to the law. If a non-Muslim says anything, let's clamp down on that non-Muslim. Where Muslims can say the exact same thing, the comments are equally weighted in terms of stirring up violence, and the authorities won't throw the book at the Muslims. Islam, once it gets the upper hand, commands those that follow it to treat Muslims this way. To treat non-Muslims this way. They have to pay a special tax just to exist. And the legal rights that Muslims enjoy, the non-Muslims do not enjoy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So Dearborn, Michigan, with its Muslim mayor, Muslim chief of police, massive Muslim population, is sort of a prototype for what's happened all around the world. And it's a prefigurement for what's coming to every single city, every single state, every single locality in the country if Americans don't speak up against this trend. Here's how the article concludes. Anthony Young's arrest for a reckless Facebook post in Dearborn exposes a glaring hypocrisy. While police swiftly jailed him for words, the Arba March's leader openly supports Hezbollah and Iran's death to America rhetoric without consequence. The real threat is militant Muslims, and it is ignored because the people in power are aligned with them. In Dearborn, Michigan, the city is run by those who excuse, enable, and even embrace that threat. This is not unique to Michigan. Let me read that again. This is not unique to Michigan. It is the same pattern we have already seen across Europe. Wherever Muslims gain political power, two-tier policing takes hold. Where non-Muslims are criminalized, while Islamic incitement is excused. Listen to this last sentence. Unless America confronts it now, what is happening in Dearborn, Michigan will spread to every place where Islamic supremacists are elected. And the reason I bring this to your attention in a prophecy update is because it points out a scenario whereby God's people worldwide will be persecuted. I mean, as Islam spreads, there will always result persecution in two people: the Saturday people, the Jews; the Sunday people, the Christians. Now, we do have, and this is what we were jumping the gun a little bit on, a little earlier on, kind of a list that summarizes this this article. So let's go ahead and put that up. It says America's first Islamic-controlled city enacts Sharia. A non-Muslim is arrested for a Facebook post. This is where it begins. When a city welcomes Islam into political power, the mask comes off. See, Muslims and Islam behaves one way when it's in the minority and behaves in a completely different way when it's in the majority. If you want to see what Islam is like when it gets the upper hand politically and moves from lower house to upper house, as they call it, look no further than Dearborn, Michigan. Dearborn, Michigan, now a Muslim-majority city with a Muslim mayor and an Islamic police chief, has turned into America's first test case for Sharia-style justice. And the reason I'm struggling with some of the words is the camera is blocking some of the language, so I'm having to look up and down. Anthony Young, a 27-year-old non-Muslim, made a reckless but vague Facebook remark. He offered no plan for violence, no immediate threat, just words. Yet, police raided his home, hauled him away in handcuffs, silenced him online, strapped a GPS shackle to his leg, and forced him to pay thousands, all before trial. And if we could switch the slides, it says, meanwhile, year after year, thousands of two-tiered jihadis marched through Dearborn chanting death to America, waving Hezbollah flags. They even hold funerals for Hezbollah martyrs, yet the police look the other way. No arrests, no charges, complete protection for their community. This this is two-tiered justice. Muslims excused, non-Muslims punished. It is Sharia logic. See, this is the natural outgrowth of fundamentalist Islam and Sharia law. It is Sharia logic. It's just this time around it's applied on U.S. soil. And we're not used to seeing this kind of thing in the land of the free and the home of the brave. This is precisely what we see in the Islamicized UK. Citizens arrested for saying, "We love bacon," while Islamic mobs chant violence. Let me read that again. While Islamic mobs chant for violence with impunity, the future is being imported here. Wow. And we wonder how America could end up as a persecutor of God's people. This is exactly how it could happen. Because this persecution that will exist against God's people in the end times will be worldwide. One final post here related to this from Amy Mick. Alu Akbar, Michigan. She writes concerning this, Dearborn is ground zero for Islam in the U.S. Just days ago, hundreds gathered to honor Hezbollah's Hassan Nasrallah, an Islamic terrorist responsible for killing 241 Americans and waging jihad against the Jews and Christians. And of course, when you go to her Twitter account, you can watch a memory video recording this whole thing. I think MEMORY stands for Middle East Media Research Institute, if I'm not mistaken, and it's an invaluable resource because it takes their language and it will translate it into English for you so you can hear and you can understand and grasp and see exactly what it is they are communicating. I mean, they communicate one way when dealing with the American people and American politicians. They say something completely different in their own country or behind closed doors or when they think no one is watching. And the MEMORY website is very helpful because they can't play that game because their language can be translated and we can see the violence. So this is some pretty heavy stuff. Kind of looking at our review slide, we talked about two things in this prophecy update: Mark of the Beast technology and coming persecution. I've got a few infomercials I'd like to send your way if I could as we close off here. But let's go ahead and begin with Titus chapter 2, verse 13. It says, looking for the blessed hope and the appearing of the glory of our great God and Savior, Christ Jesus. There's a silver lining in this whole thing. As our world is being prepared for the darkness of the 7-year tribulation period, there's a hope, there's a promise that before God's wrath is poured out on this planet in the events of the 7-year tribulation period, which humanity is being primed for, Jesus promises to return at any moment and rescue his own from the earth in an event that we call the pre-tribulational rapture of the church. And wouldn't it be wonderful in this kind of climate of fear and uncertainty for you to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you belong to Jesus and you're tied into this promise and you can come into a right relationship with Jesus by placing your personal faith or trust in what he did for you 2,000 years ago. His final words on the cross were, "It is finished." We don't save ourselves. We don't do good works to save ourselves. We trust in the good work that he did for us in paying for our sin debt 2,000 years ago. And we would encourage anyone within the sound of my voice to place their personal trust in that transaction. It's more than intellectual assent. It involves a matter of trust. But the moment you do that is the moment you're a blood-bought child of God, having received the free gift of salvation, which ties you into all of his wonderful promises, not the least of which is participation in the any moment return of Jesus Christ via the rapture. I would invite you to go to our app in the App Store, free download, get that on your device and enjoy all of our content through that app. People that get it love it, rave about it. Also, go to wherever it is you get your podcasts and type in Andy Woods Ministries into the search engine. By the way, that's how you find our app in the App Store. Just type in Andy Woods Ministries into the search engine. But in this case, you'll discover that all of our Pastor's Point of View shows are available in podcast format, including this one. A podcast is uploaded immediately after we record a Pastor's Point of View show. We would invite you to go to our website, andywoodsministries.org, get all of our content that way as well as there being a conspicuous way on the homepage to sign up for our show notes. And these notes that I read from, all of the links, will show up in your inbox on Friday morning every time we post a Pastor's Point of View show, all completely free. If you're interested in seminary training, I would invite you to check out Chafer Theological Seminary. Go to chafer.edu. And while you are at chafer.edu, as you're interested in seminary training, check out our journal, academic journal that's available there at your fingertips. It's called Pneumaticos. I think we have a screenshot of that, but it's got various academic articles that are written by our students and faculty defending the theological ideas that we embrace at Chafer Theological Seminary. Also want to make you aware of September 19th and 20th, Rockwall, Texas, the Hope for Our Times conference hosted by Tom Hughes. He'll be one of the speakers along with Olivier Melnick, Pete Garcia, Eric Stakelbeck, that you watch probably regularly on television. He gives Middle East updates on Christian television. Myself, Harmuz Shariat, if I'm pronouncing that right. And this is going to be a 2 days of intensive Bible prophecy teaching in Rockwall, Texas. There's the information on the screen where you can access live stream, learn more about the conference, and register for the conference. Also, Duluth Bible Church, October 2nd through the 6th, is having their annual fall Bible conference, and there's a pastor's portion, an all believers portion, covering great subjects. In this case, the pastor's portion is going to be covering expositions from Ezekiel. There's going to be a recording of me there where I'm going to be talking through Ezekiel 38 and 39, but you can see that there's some standout speakers and presenters, so we want to make you aware of that. I am going to be at Brandon House's 2025 annual Worldview Weekend Conference. Look at the patriots and conservatives that are presenting at that particular conference. I'm one among many, but you see a lot of familiar names and a lot of familiar faces. That's going to be in Collierville, Tennessee. That's October 3rd and 4th. There's some information there on the screen where you can find out all about that conference. Also coming up, December 8th through 10th, 2025 is the pre-trib study group meeting in Dallas. Academic papers defending the doctrine of the pre-trib rapture, end times, dispensationalism, Zionism, etc. are going to be presented. Max Lucado, I believe, is the keynote speaker, who, interestingly enough, just wrote a tremendous book on the subject of Bible prophecy, As you look at the speakers list, you'll see many people presenting that you will recognize, including yours truly. I'm going to be giving a talk on why Revelation 3, verse 10 is a wonderful rapture passage. So check out pre-trib.org to learn more about that conference. Also, ProfCon 2026, the 5th annual prophecy conference hosted by Sugarland Bible Church, is coming up quick too, February 20th to 21st. We are having it this time at the Marriott City Walk in Sugarland Town Square, so we don't have to turn people away. And we want to accommodate as many people as we can. Speakers include Paul Wilkinson, Russ Miller, Olivier Melnick, Patrick Wood, Alex Newman, myself. We're going to be doing a special interview with Melissa Hooray of the Lindell TV and Lindell Recovery Network, and special music by Olam Worship. And it's just going to be a tremendous Bible prophecy conference. Go to profcon.com to register now and sign up for that conference. You're not going to want to miss this. And we invite you to stick around Sunday morning once we conclude there at the hotel, which will be all day Friday, all day Saturday. Stick around Sunday morning, as a lot of our folks that will present at this conference will be speaking during our normal service times at Sugarland Bible Church. Also, it's not too early to think about the Stealing the Mind conference, Saturday, March 14th, 2026 in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. A lot of those folks speaking at our conference are also going to be speaking at this Stealing the Mind conference. So go to Compass Ministries, I believe it is, .org to learn about this one-day Saturday conference. I also want to make you aware that my book, The Bible and Your Vote, I think we have a screenshot of that, is out and is available. There's a QR code where you can access this on Amazon. You can order it in printed form if you want. You can order it in electronic format, Kindle format, should you desire. And it's just a book dealing with a topical Bible study on how to vote biblically. And some of these announcements I've given, is stuff you've heard before, but this one you may not have heard before. We have a brand new AI feature through Andy Wood's ministries called Ask Andy. And we've got a screenshot there which says, got a question? Ask Andy. Try our new resource, Ask Any Biblical Question. You can find this at askandy.andywoodsministries.org. You can find this on our website. You can find this on our app that I mentioned a few moments ago. And what it is it's an AI search engine. Now, you might be saying to yourself, AI, now wait a minute, didn't you just condemn Mark of the Beast technology? Why are you getting involved with all this kind of stuff? Well, I'm using it not so much on the creation or production side. I don't create material, sermons, Bible studies using this type of technology. We're using it on the data retrieval side. So it's dealing with data collection, not producing content. And you have to understand something, that I teach the Bible at Sugarland Bible Church, and I've been doing this at least part-time since 2010, full-time since 2016. I teach the Bible 3 times a week. So in the course of that time, a substantial amount of biblical content taught by me has been assembled in audio, in video, and in transcript form. And so what people do is they ask us questions, from all over the world. People contact us and they say, what do you believe about the virgin birth? What do you believe about the Trinity? What do you believe about the inerrancy of the Scripture? How do you reconcile election versus free will? Does the Bible teach the reality of carnal Christians? You know, those kinds of questions. What are some good verses on the deity of Christ? And to be honest with you, a lot of times I'll say, well, I dealt with that in a sermon, but I can't remember exactly which sermon it was. And so I have to sort of hunt and peck, you know, kind of looking for, how does the phrase go? A straw. Yeah, there we go. Needle in a haystack. And it's very difficult to do. And so what this technology does is you ask it a question and it will search through all my sermons. Anything I've verbally said, anything video-wise, anything I've written are all in the database. And it will, you ask the question, it'll do a quick search. It'll say thinking once you ask your question and press send. And then it will assemble in beautiful paragraph format exactly what I teach on a certain topic. And then as you scroll down, it will timestamp the exact places in my teaching where I discuss that specific issue that people are inquiring of. And it will show you the video itself where you don't have to watch the entire video. It'll show you the specific point in the video where that topic is mentioned. So it's a lot like using an index in a book. You know, at the end of a book, there's an index. And so when you want to discover what a writer says about such and such, you can read the whole book if you want, but most people don't have time when they're doing fast research. You consult the index and it takes you to the page number where the author dealt with that topic. That's what this technology does. And to my mind, very few people know about this technology. It's out there a little bit in the business world, but I know of no ministries that have taken advantage of it. I think we are among the first, if not the first. And of course, we don't have any kind of monopoly on it. As this technology becomes more well-known, more and more nonprofits, more and more ministries will no doubt take advantage of it. But I want you to know that that tool is available at your fingertips. And, well, I don't know what else to say about it other than God has given us some neat tools to take advantage of as we study his word. Keep in mind that these are only my sermons and my teachings. So it's not going to bring up stuff from people who are teaching theological ideas that are outside of what we embrace at Sugarland Bible Church. And so just want to make you aware of that. And that's all I've got for today in terms of infomercials. Thank you for watching Pastor's Point of View. Thank you for praying for Pastor's Point of View. And Lord willing, we will see you next time. God bless you.